On today's show, we continue our Houston Rockets draft profile series. Today, focusing on UConn's elite point of attack defender, Stephon Castle. We're going to highlight his strengths, his weaknesses, possible NBA player comps, projected draft range, his Rockets fit, and so much more. It's all coming up on today's Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We want your thoughts on Stephon Castle. How would you feel if the Rockets use the number 3 overall pick on him? Let us know in the YouTube comments. That's the best way you can help our show out. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you for being an everydayer. And joining us now is your weekly co-host, NBA draft enthusiast, and diehard Houston Rockets fan, Madison Moore. You can track down on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. Here as we continue our Houston Rockets draft profile series for Locked On Rockets. A lot to get into, a lot of different prospects to take a look at. We've got so many different names that we're going to tackle between now and the NBA draft. If you missed it, go check out our previous episode where we covered UConn's Donovan Clingan, the just mountainous big man. And now on today's show, we're going to be tackling his teammate, Stephon Castle, also from UConn. And this is a guy that I think is not so secretly Madison's favorite prospect potentially in the entire draft. He did a really good job. We had about a 10-minute segment before the last time we talked about Stephon Castle and if the Houston Rockets jumped up into the top 4 of the NBA draft. Well, Madison, you got your wish. Rockets did jump up into the top 4. So give me, for those who missed that episode, who haven't heard your thoughts on Stephon Castle before, give us your elevator pitch. Give us your reason for, who he is as a player. Sell him to us.
Yeah, man. Stephon Castle is absolutely my favorite player in the draft so far. My favorite player I've done a deep dive on. This guy is an incredibly high IQ guard / wing. He's a big guard. He's about 6'5" and a half, 6'7" in shoes, and he's a physical wing that played for UConn in the championship team. That was an excellent defender at all, point of attack defender at all levels. This guy just screams Ime Udoka type player. He's a physical defender, and not only is he physical and great defensively, but he's also a physical, finesse, smooth, high IQ driver and a guy who gets to the rim with physicality and strength. This guy plays in the style of the modern NBA, I think. And when it comes to getting to the rim, I think the way he plays, the way he gets to the basket is it like works in playoff basketball. It's incredibly smart the way he gets his buckets. You don't have to draw up a play for him. He can get buckets on or off ball. And just ultimately, this is the type of guy that makes winning plays. This is the high IQ player that we hope one day can actually be a point guard, which he was in high school, but kind of played an off-ball role at UConn. So that is kind of like the elevator pitch for him. This defensive do-it-all point guard / wing that has versatility on both ends of the floor.
The rest of those measurables, so 6'5" and a half without shoes, so 6'7" in shoes once he makes it to the NBA. Standing reach, 8'6", weighing in about 210 pounds, and then a 6'9" wingspan. Nice, if I do say so myself. Yeah. I will say, one of the things about Castle that has stood out early for me is just he takes so much pride defensively. Like you could there are just certain guys you can tell like they are so locked in defensively because they've made that their calling card. They're like, okay, this is what we're doing. Like, cool, I'm gonna lock in. I'm gonna be a defensive player. I'm gonna make my impact felt on that side of the court. He could walk away. He's kind of a jack of all trades, when it comes to his overall game, especially his offensive skill set. But defensively, that's where he's going to be able to hang his hat at the NBA level. And that's where I think we have to start with, when we talk about his strengths and weaknesses, let's dive into what makes him such a unique and talented defender.
Yeah, I mean, first things first, he's incredibly big for a guard, especially if he's guarding your point guard. This guy is physical, guards with his chest. He's able to get under screens. I mean, his his ability to miss screens at this level, get around screens at this level, at this age, is just absolutely impressive. He's an incredibly smart defender who's able to rotate and help, even like as a help defender as well. And his size and physicality just can really overwhelm people. He likes to get up under you, and if you show any, I say, weakness in your handle, he's going to test you. And he's able to create deflections and turnovers after that. And I think his physicality, he really just imposed that type of physicality and defensive prowess on players. And it really just showed in the way that he played. And I think what's most impressive about Castle was a 5-star recruit. Okay. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school as a point guard, as a offense first point guard, do it all point guard, really operating an offense. He came to UConn to win games, and they completely changed his role. Okay, he played with.
Well, really quick, who does that sound like? Well, I think we know a guy that was a point guard for pretty much his entire career, and then suddenly got brought into a winning system and was asked to change his role, change his identity all of a sudden, and he actually did a really great job in this newfound role, operating as kind of a pseudo wing, if you will. Was that somebody that we know, Madison?
I think it might be a guy we know, but yeah, no, very similar to Amon though, and guess what? It won a championship, and he did. And this is what's different from what actually happened with Amon. Amon kind of played into this role because that's what he could do at an elite level right now. Castle could run an offense right now. It just so happened that his size allowed him to play the wing, and then he had 2 other point guards on his team that are actually really good and are going to be draft picks, and they were smaller. They were not able to play that wing position. So they asked him to take a step back in initiating the offense and become an off-ball player and become this defensive stopper, and he did what his coach asked of him to do, and he became a national championship. But that is the type of stuff, that's the type of selflessness you want in a prospect, a guy who can come in and have the versatility to play different roles. But because of that, I think this guy has untapped potential as a point guard. I mean, you can look at his high school film and the way this guy handles the ball, the reads he makes, every type of read. And you can see that in his film as well at the college level as a connective passer. This guy is incredibly high IQ. He can make every pass in the book, and the way he moves off ball was just very Jimmy Butler-esque. He always found the right opportunity in space. He always got a tip dunk, or he's always making a play. You don't have to draw up a play for this guy because he's always on the boards. He's always moving in space. He was Donovan Clingan's favorite guy to hit on backdoor cuts. This guy just instinctually knows how to play basketball and plays it the right way. And that's what I really, really love about Castle.
Two things that stand out about me that I really like is one, I like that he's a good finisher through contact, right? You talk about him being big and strong, but just the ability to absorb, take a bump, or take that initial contact and still finish. And he's a good finisher with either hand, right? Like he's whether it's right, left, just a great feel for the game, right? A guy that you can look at, and I think sometimes we throw around the high IQ as like a blanket feel, kind of cover all your bases thing, but he really does have a great feel for the game. And I do think playing point guard in high school, right, and then switching point guard, arguably the hardest position to play on a basketball floor, right? You're conducting, you're orchestrating, putting everybody in their right spots. So to move from that position where you are officially like the floor general into that more pseudo kind of wing role that he occupied with UConn, I think it allowed him to have a really great feel for the game and understanding, okay, hey, I know what they're getting ready to run. I know where I need to be, and I know how I can, make an impact here, or I can cut this way, or make this pass here, and it's going to open things up for my teammates. So I like that about him.
And let me. Yeah, and I just want to add because I think one of my favorite part about his game is actually not the defense. It's actually, like you said, the way he drives and the way he gets to the basket. When he uses his physicality to knock guys off the spot, and he really finishes through contact so well. He has a lot of
there's like an art to misses. Be able to bump guys off and still maintain your balance, your equilibrium to go up with the shot. That's not an easy thing to do. Like guys like Jimmy Butler and James Harden make it look easy, but it's not an easy thing to do.
He's really banging guys off the spot and then finishing with finesse. And another thing that is really, when you see a guy who uses his physicality all the time, you think, man, I hope that's not the only thing he can do. His power is the only thing he can do. But no, this guy has an array of Euro steps and step throughs and smooth finishes that he mixes in space. You really see them come alive in the fast break, but anytime there is space on the floor, he often is very deceptive in his movements and able to get to the rim without actually using his physicality. So the ability to be able to employ both sets of drives with this guy combined with his ability to make plays in the passing lanes, I believe when this guy gets in space, the increased space in the NBA, I think that those drives to the rim are going to really pop for this guy. He's going to be incredibly hard to stay in front of. And that's something I think a lot is missed about his game. The way he actually gets to the rim is just so pro-ready for me.
I'm really looking forward to whether it's with the Rockets or another team, somebody handing this guy the keys and letting him kind of run the show a little bit and putting the ball back into his hands for letting him, run an offense. He said it at the combine. He's a point guard, right? He went to UConn, played a different role, but he said it himself. I'm a point guard. That's what he wants to do at the NBA level. That's how he envisions himself as a player. And that's the other part is that I wanted to bring up is it doesn't feel like he gets sped up very much, if at all, right? No. Like he plays at his own pace. He goes at his own speed. He's going to do what he wants to do on the court. And I think that's a very unique skill that's hard to kind of quantify, but you can see it when there's a player out there who's imposing their will on the game and they're going to go as fast or as slow as they want to. They're going to make you play the way they want to. I think that's an important skill set to have here. We're going to get into the downsides with Stephon Castle here in just a moment, as well as our NBA player comps and what his fit would look like with this Houston Rockets team. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Because LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals that you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or the resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process even easier. They just launched a feature that actually helps you write job descriptions, making the process easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets. All right, Madison, as we're talking about Stephon Castle here, let's go into his weaknesses. And I feel like this is going to be a recurring theme. And I hate that it is because I don't consider myself an expert when it comes to draft analysis, whatever. I know enough to get by. That's why I lean on you and other experts in the field, other people who really have a thing for, watching these prospects and watching them blossom into NBA players. But the shooting, man, it's just, these shooting numbers don't inspire a ton of confidence. I know that I was really excited to see him shoot 70% at the combine, but that's a shooting drill, right? Like a lot of these players can shoot knockdown shots in an open gym, right? It's very different than live game reps, real game scenarios.
Yeah, so the three-point shooting is an issue for Castle right now, and it's even bigger issue because most of his three-point shots were wide open catch and shoot jump shots. I think mechanically there's no real issues with the jump shot to me, no huge issues. It is a bit of a catapult, but I think it's a smooth and good jump shot. The only thing I see that he has a real problem with is he has this slight lean back in his jump shot. You'll see that he's not straight up and down, and I think it'll be an easy fix for him. But most of his shots are back rim and short. Okay, so they're on target. He doesn't have a whole lot of bad misses. Of course, he has a couple, but there's not a whole lot of bad misses, right? And if he made 5 more shots from 3 over the course of the season, he would have been a 33% three-point shooter. And if he made 10 more shots, he'd have been a 40% three-point shooter. So, it's a make or miss. The numbers are the numbers, but to me, mechanically, there's no major issues with his jump shot. And I actually feel better that there was a slight lean, because that means there's just something really easy you can clean up in that jump shot to get it right. And we see players come into the league every day who aren't able to shoot right away. And as they put the work ethic in, they become competent shooters. And because mechanically, I think his mechanics are solid. I think he will eventually shoot it in the league 3 to 4 years down the line. I like to just say like Jalen Suggs, right? We noticed Jalen Suggs was a terrible shooter when he came in, his first year. And then this year he shot 40% from three and has just become this ultimate player for the Orlando Magic and one of their best shooters. I can see the same type of trajectory with Stephon Castle because there's no real mechanical issues. And I actually like the form on his jump shot. So that is a real weakness that he's going to take some time to develop, but we don't need him to come in and shoot the ball right away. He's going to have to develop. That's what the draft is about. These guys are not ready to play winning basketball right away, even though his defense might actually get him on the court. But yeah, I think that is his biggest weakness. And that's the thing probably holding him back. If he shot 36% from three, I think he'd probably be a consensus number one pick.
Does he have another weakness or any other weaknesses in his game that you're currently looking at and thinking, he needs to iron out this, to make it at the next level?
Yeah, I think there is not so much weaknesses, but sometimes he can be a bit over-reliant on the physicality, and it'll get him in trouble with help side defenders where he's so worried about, the guy in front of him and making sure he gets him off of him with his physicality that he could not see that help side defender who's, speeding across to block his shot. So there's a couple possessions like that, but nothing real huge. And of course, there's not a lot of jump shot creation in his offense in UConn. You've seen a lot of it when he was in high school, when he was the offensive player, the guy, but he just didn't do a lot of it at UConn. We did see flashes of it in the mid-range where he also used his size to get guys off of him and shoot a couple mid-range shots that I thought looked pretty good. But as far as shot creation from three, we didn't really see any step backs, any off the dribble. You go under the screen and pull up jump shots. And if we are projecting this guy to be a star, if we want to select him with the number 3 pick overall, if we project this guy to be a point guard, he's not only going to have to shoot the ball as a catch and shoot guy, but when guys go under the screen, he's going to have to shoot it off the dribble. Now, I think the high school film is encouraging. And I do think stuff like this you can extrapolate from the high school film, just like the same way we did with Brandon Miller last year, when the big knock on him was he can't shoot from the mid range. Well, that's all he did in high school. You know what I mean? So it's like when you need to grab things that a player was not asked to do at the college level, but did at a high level at the high school level, you can kind of get some clues. So I think overall, I think he'll be okay. But those are some of the worries I have about Castle.
All right, let's get into some of the NBA player comps. And a spoiler alert, I think we already stumbled across one of them from you, which is Jalen Suggs that you highlighted a moment ago.
Yeah. So Jalen Suggs is one of his median outcomes. Jalen Suggs, of course, this defensive first guy who can be a first team all defensive player. I think Stephon Castle has a lot of that. But let's just talk about a couple of his low end outcomes. And so one of the low end outcomes I think is really in line for him is Chris Dunn. I mean, big defense first point guard who really never developed any of his offensive skills. If Stephon Castle just never develops as an offensive player, he's probably going to look something like Chris Dunn. Another one is Tyreek Evans. I think Tyreek Evans is a good comp because that is if his defense never really translates and he leans more on his offensive side, but the jumper never comes through, and he's more of a slasher and creator, getting to the basket, like I spoke of it.
So rookie of the year and then fizzles out. Got it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, not the rookie of the year, Tyreek Evans. He was crazy. That's actually crazy. That's a whole nother discussion. But those are just some of the low end outcomes, I think, and that's if he just never develops any parts of his game. But back to the median, along with Suggs, we have Cason Wallace, which I think is along the same mold as Jalen Suggs. These point guards who have some passing ability, have high IQ, but are not asked to ball handle, are not asked to actually initiate offense, but can find a role on the team because they're just so good defensively. And they
I just want to highlight how ridiculous it is that you got a median tier outcome for a prospect and he's a rookie for a team that got the number 1 seed in the West, whatever. Like, damn OKC for being so stacked with talent. Like that's how I feel. Like we're over here perspective. We're like, oh, maybe Stephon Castle could be Cason Wallace. It's like he's already down the street. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, it's just, hey, if you're a good player, dog, you can get on the comp list. And there's some recency bias there too. But that's man, you see what I'm saying. So, but I think if the jump shot comes around in a little bit, because Cason Wallace shot it okay this year, not great, right? If the jump shot ever comes around, that what we see from Cason Wallace as just this off the bench defensive versatility, those type of guys. DeAnthony Melton is another guy within that vein. I think fits very well for Castle, but he's much bigger than DeAnthony Melton, so that'd be a really effective player.
Gives him some like legit size on the, because if you're talking about DeAnthony Melton at 6'5" and a half, 6'7", that's an every year like all NBA first team, defensive team, whatever. Like that's a really damn good player. DeAnthony Melton struggles a lot. Former should have been Rockets legend DeAnthony Melton, might I add. But yeah, he's always suffered from his slight lack of size, but at the same time he still made a very solid career for himself despite the lacking in some of the physicals, I guess.
Right, exactly. And I've said before, Devin Vassell is if he just leans more on the offensive side, but it never reaches actually superstar outcomes, right? But to get to the high-end outcomes and the things that I really think he can be, and I put my trust in a guy with this type of work ethic and this type of mentality to become, I think guys like you suggested last time, Derek White. I thought Derek White was just an absolute excellent comp for this guy. The passing that Derek White comes with, the defensive intensity, and also developing that jump shot late, right? It came late, but you were able to see that Derek White was still a very effective player before he got his jump shot all the way ironed out. There's still ways for you to get on the floor and be very effective. And I think that can be in a trajectory. And 5-6 years down the line, that's when we start to see that all-star potential come out of him. So that's the type of guy. Drew Holiday, the way Drew Holiday uses his strength as a defender is what makes him so unique. And so I think Castle has the size to use that type of strength and really disrupt guys. And he plays with the same type of physicality as Drew. And so I like Drew Holiday a lot from that aspect. And he's not the greatest shooter, but he's passable. He's good enough.
He's a respected shooter.
Yeah, he's a respected shooter. And so that's what I kind of envision for Castle. He may not be, elite knockdown shooter, but he will be respected with that form.
And one of those things that it brings to mind, you highlighting Drew Holiday, right? Using his strength, especially defensively, to not get bumped off certain spots, whatever. I remember having that exact conversation with Mike Givada here on Locked On Rockets, highlight, because he's a guy, he's been, Drew Holiday's trainer for most of his career, and talked about the strength and conditioning training that goes into his ability to be an impactful defender. And that's one of the things they work on, is anchoring yourself to a spot and being the terminology they used was immovable, right? Getting to a spot and holding your position. And Drew, as a bit of an undersized guard, is still able to go out there and we saw him put clamps on KD that one playoff series years ago when he was with the Pelicans. Like that was kind of crazy to think about, is that you had 6'2" Drew Holiday guarding Kevin Durant, and KD couldn't do anything with him because he couldn't back him down. He couldn't move him off his spot because he was immovable because he used his strength. So
yeah, man, and just imagine that. I think,
but that in a bigger body too,
a bigger body, and that's what's making Castle so appealing. That this guy's going to be doing this at 6'7", point of attack defense at 6'7". These type of strength principles at 6'7", and that's what brings his highest end outcome. Jimmy Butler, who is a guy that is Stephon Castle's size, and I think the role that Castle played at UConn is very reminiscent to the way that Jimmy Butler scores every day in the Miami Heat's offense. He scores with cutting off boards, getting physicality and drawing fouls and getting to the rim, finishing through contact, really just strong offensively. Like, he's not only strong defensively, but strong offensively as well. I think the way he moved was very reminiscent of Jimmy Butler, and I think that's his highest end outcome. Once again, Jimmy Butler is not an elite three-point shooter. You don't have to be an elite three-point shooter to be a high-level player in this league, but this guy gets it done when it's time to get it done, and I expect him to have the work ethic to be able to reach a level of Jimmy Butler if everything hits right.
Coming up, we've still got the important part of the discussion here. Not that it's not all important, but maybe the most important part of the discussion. What would his fit look like on this Houston Rockets roster? How would he fit alongside other members of the current young core, as well as his projected draft range, and so much more here in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, we all carry around different stressors, right? Could be something big, could be something small that's weighing on you. When we keep those things bottled up, it can start to affect your life in really negative ways, right? Therapy is a safe space to get those things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever is weighing you down. Look, I've done therapy in the past, and I found it to be an incredibly cathartic experience to have an unbiased third party kind of walk me through some of the things that have been weighing on me in my life. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets as we are focused on Houston Rockets draft prospect Stephon Castle out of UConn. All right, Madison, this is the part. What's the highest you've seen Castle mocked to go in this year's draft, and what's the lowest you've seen him go?
The highest I've seen him. So mocks, I haven't been following the mocks as much, but I will say the highest I've seen on somebody's board is Sam Vecini has him number 2. Okay. So that's the highest I've seen on a big board. And I know there's a couple other guys pretty high on him. But for the most part, most of the time I see him mocked for the Charlotte Hornets. And I believe, what is that, 6? It's 6 or 7 with the Charlotte Hornets.
Six pick, yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like everybody is kind of wanting to send him there. They think he's a great fit next to LaMelo and Brandon Miller. But he has another one of those guys that can go as high as 1 and all the way down to top 10. Because this is the eye of the beholder. A lot of these guys are similar tiers, and you can sell yourself on either one of them. So so that's pretty much the range Castle has right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I think arguably one of the most important parts of this discussion is what would it look like if the Houston Rockets drafted Stephon Castle? What would he look like in a Rockets jersey? I think it comes with the disclaimer, and we're going to get tired of saying this, so this might be the last time we say this on one of these draft profiles. Whoever the Rockets take, they're not going to be playing out of the gate. They're not going to be playing right away. They're going to slow play it, develop them over time. That being said, I do think that you look at this current Rockets team, and there was a very glaring need, for additional ball handling help this past season specifically. But even, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, whatever, you look at the current landscape of the NBA, having players who can do multiple things on the floor, who are multifaceted, who can handle, who can shoot, who can defend, who can rebound, who are just overall well-rounded players never hurts you. And I do think that the way that we've talked about Castle throughout this, draft profile episode here, it has me incredibly excited at the thought of him one day becoming like a point guard level threat at the NBA level. And if his shooting does materialize, then I wonder what a backcourt would potentially look like, or not a starting backcourt necessarily one day, but just having, Castle and Amin Thompson side by side with one another in the backcourt. That's like the 2 best point of attack defenders you could ask for, in Rockets jerseys.
Yeah, I think they could really terrorize teams. I think once again we have Alperen Sengun who's improved defensively but has limitations. But employing these versatile guys that really are elite point of attack defenders in Amin Thompson and Stephon Castle, we could really be working with fire. I mean, we've seen how elite point of attack defenders really bothered Jamal Murray in the Denver series. And so just adding more big wing size guys who are able to play in different ways, who are able to switch on the perimeter, who's able to rotate, rebound, and also rotate as help defenders as well with their size. I mean, that gives us a lot of optionality defensively and a lot of versatility and athleticism. And I think those guys defensively would, honestly just terrorize guys. But I think the real fit is about them offensively. And
no, because I'm envisioning a lineup of Castle, Amin Thompson, Cam Whitmore, Tari Eason, and Jabari Smith Jr. Able to switch 1 through. And before I catch any flack, the only reason I'm not including Jalen in this lineup is because Jalen is a little bit smaller and can get bullied, defensively sometimes. He's a much improved defender, but I'm thinking about like Cam's got the size at least, right, to switch and the muscle, the strength. I still remember back in training camp when Alp tried to post up Cam Whitmore in the paint at their training camp, and Cam just didn't move. Like, Cam didn't budge when Alp threw his entire body into him, tried to drop a shoulder into him, and nothing happened. So, yeah, man. I mean, I think it's just like team defense. Like that's what I'm saying. If we want to really shut a team out, just think about situation of basketball. We need to stop the type of lineup we could just throw out there with all these plus defenders and really just elite level defenders at the next level. I think that is what we would envision. And that's what we want to give MA. We want to give MA those type of tools to employ. But I think the harder question to answer is about the offense, right? And how does he fit? Why Stephon Castle? A lot of what we talked about, we even talked about the similarities with Amon. He really sounds a lot like Amon. And I know that really is giving pause to a lot of Rockets fans. But I want them to understand that Stephon Castle, which makes him so unique, is the versatility. Like we said, we want more initiators in this offense. I do think also, just on that note, I think Castle even right now is a bit more polished offensively than Amin Thompson is. Yes. Like his overall feel for being able to handle the ball, tighter handle than Amin right now. Amin was just a generational athlete who also had these flashes, the court vision, the playmaking ability. You saw them there, and you could kind of envision how, like, okay, once he's less raw and kind of refines his game a little bit, that could be a superstar level player. Whereas Stephon Castle, like, higher floor, lower potential ceiling, I think maybe than Amin.
Exactly. And that's the thing. If he's not going to beat Amin as a pseudo wing out of the dunker spot, like, Amin's going to do those things way better than him. He's able to do that at a high level right now, day one. But Castle has the tighter handle. Castle could come in and run the offense while Amon is developing that part of his game. Because we do want to win right now. We do have things that we do need initiation and shot creation out of this offense. And it gives the guys down the line another shot creator, just in case Amon never really gets there with the ball handling and the point guard instincts, which is fine because he's still an elite level defender, an elite level wing player. But what if he goes in the more Andre Iguodala direction? Then when Fred VanVleet comes off the books, we need somebody who can come in and initiate offense, who can settle our guys down, because he has real floor general skills. And like you talked about, he plays with a patience, a pace. He doesn't make many mistakes, right? And so we need a cerebral guy like that who can really settle us down if Amon never gets to that level. And let's say Amon does get to that level. Well, this guy's already shown that he can be excellent. You've got two of those guys. That's a good problem to have. But also, he's already proven that he can play off ball, right? And it's nothing wrong with having multiple initiators. Look at the OKC Thunder. You know what I mean? And like I said, I do believe that he will shoot it long term. He may not shoot it right now, but there's other ways to become effective. And I think this Rockets team is going to hang their hat defensively. And I think when it comes to upside, there's no one higher than Stephon Castle in this class for me.
Oh man, that right there is a very strong note to end this show on. We want your thoughts though on Stephon Castle. Let us know in the YouTube comments. How do you feel about his strengths, his weaknesses, his potential fit with this Houston Rockets team? Give us all of your thoughts in the comments. Madison, let everyone know where they can track you down at.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. Come talk Rockets basketball, NBA draft.
That's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Rockets. As always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcast or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you're listening via Apple Podcasts, a 5-star review helps us out a ton. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.